Today you're going to hear the top 10 highly traded US stocks, and I've actually done a previous similar video before. Just in case you haven't seen it, let me leave it here or in the links in the summary sections below. And just to share with you, that previous list, the number one was Tesla Motors, which is nowhere found on today's list. Also in the previous list, you also had NIO. So back then, these two were highly traded, and that could also have been the peak for these two in terms of their market valuation. So keep in mind that logic. Maybe some who come on today's list are at the peak of their valuation. How I'll run today's discussion is to run through 7 names quickly with you, and I'll also deep dive into 2 in particular towards the end of the video. So stay tuned to it. I think these two are very interesting companies. So without further ado, let's roll in the intro video. Hi guys, welcome back. The first name on today's list is actually Pinterest. We do know about Pinterest, correct? Because if you Google search a bit, you naturally see their charts, their images. And the key part, if you want to be an investor, is to actually look at the numbers itself. So I've actually done the homework and sharing with you over here what the revenue summary is. You already see that the revenue growth has been pretty strong over the last few quarters. The international growth year on year is at 170%. Wow, that is actually outstanding. I've actually done some further checks. They could possibly be coming from UK, France, Germany, Japan and Brazil, because US already uses quite a lot of Pinterest. So it's the international space where it's really growing. The next part that I'd like to share with you about Pinterest is that right now it's still not profitable, but it looks like it's going to turn profits pretty soon. And then there's an interesting fact. Right now Pinterest is only trailing Facebook. Facebook of course has Instagram with it, and Pinterest is definitely up in the top 3 in terms of the most widely used social media platforms. And just to share a bit with you, my staff Cass actually uses Pinterest quite a bit to learn about motorcycles in a much more simplistic manner as compared to, for example, a YouTube video. So more information about Pinterest is that they are actually generating more and more revenue from their users. And just to share with you a difference between Pinterest and Facebook, Facebook already drives substantial revenue at $32 per user. And Pinterest right now is only at $6 to $10, which means there could be a lot of room to drive revenue from advertisers and users, matching them. And then if that number climbs, naturally Pinterest gets to a high level of profitability. So with that, let's run on to number 2 on today's list, which is actually Zoom. Now I do use Zoom on a day-to-day basis because right now we work from home quite a lot, and Zoom has actually made it very simple for someone who's not very tech savvy to get on board with his usage. That's a testament to his technology. So what about the numbers for Zoom? Let me pull this up for you to see. You realize that its growth for 2020-2021 has been phenomenal, correct? So even a user like me is on board. Naturally, I think a lot of people are using Zoom for their work. Over there, I'd like to highlight for you, 4th quarter financial 2021 is actually 1st of January to 31st of March 2021. This number seems to be climbing, but probably at a slower pace. And if we see the biggest jump is 2nd quarter financial 2021, and that's actually June to September. So that quarter was actually the point where it had maximum growth rate. Would it still grow at a high pace? I do think so, but maybe that phenomenal pace is kind of past already. Having said that, Zoom still has a lot of margins to its business. You realize that gross margins are very healthy. Although there's competition, Microsoft has Microsoft Teams, Google also has Google Meet. And just to share with you a chart on the most popular video conferencing apps, you realize that Zoom is still leading by a significant margin. So the next question is Zoom in a profitable ground already or not? Let me show you the income statement right now for Zoom. Zoom is right now profitable already, which is good, which means it's not burning money already to acquire customers. It can really start to scale its business and develop a more holistic customer experience. So maybe that will keep customers coming back to Zoom as competitors try to get into this pie of video conferencing. The third company on today's list is actually C Limited. And C Limited has actually been covered on this channel already. And just to give you a quick snapshot of what C Limited is doing, it's actually expanding very rapidly in South America. Now there's a name that's actually dominant over there, which is Mercado Libre. But C Limited, with its aggressive expansions overseas, is really eating into that pie. And they already have an audience in South America because of its gaming platform. C makes about $1 billion in profits from gaming. And with that, he actually reinvests into his e-commerce platform. If you haven't seen the full tutorial on C Limited, let me invite you there. And we can move on to number 4 on today's list, which is Alibaba. Alibaba is also covered on this channel before. If you haven't seen the previous tutorial, let me invite you there also. Alibaba's main change that I'd like to inform you right now is actually its investment into Tier 3, Tier 4, Tier 5 cities through its acquisition of Sun Art. Now Alibaba is already dominant in Tier 1, Tier 2 cities in Shanghai, Beijing. But moving to tier 3, tier 4, tier 5 cities where Pinduoduo is actually very dominant, they're actually acquiring supermarkets and trying to build an infrastructure of delivery to reach a different market. Now, I'm a big fan of Alibaba, so I have actually more details in the private channel. So if you're keen, look for the private members channel. Over there, I'll explain more about Alibaba's cloud business and how I view an investment into Alibaba right now. Number 5 on today's list is actually Microsoft, an old horse. Microsoft has actually seen its fortunes revive significantly, and that's because it has its cloud computing business, Azure. So Microsoft has actually reported the strongest profit quarter. So that is phenomenal actually for an old company as compared to many on this list. So let me pull up for you to see the revenue structure for Microsoft right now. And what do you realize? That dark blue bar in the middle over there is actually the cloud computing space. And cloud computing right now is key driver for profits. If you haven't realized what the cloud computing market space is, let me pull up this for you to see. Realize that AWS, which is Amazon Web Services, is number 1. Number 2 is Azure, and Azure is really catching up on AWS. And why is Microsoft doing so well in cloud? That's because CEO Satya was previously the CEO of his cloud computing business. So he's really used his knowledge there to really revolutionize Microsoft. And with that, Microsoft is right now the second most valuable company in the world, only second to Apple. Now, we've run through a list of 5 already, so which of them is your favorite? Leave them in the comment sections below. I'll be keen to hear from you also. And invite you to smash a like. It's taken our team hours to prepare the slides for you, to give you an idea on what is actually popular and what is actually trending in the market right now. So number 6 on today's list is a company that we had to research a bit deeper because myself at least, I have no clue on what they do. And that is actually Plug Power. Now, Plug Power, in my opinion, is a renewable energy company, and it has legacy plants, it has battery, it has storage business. And the main juice of Plug Power, if I'm not wrong, after all this research, is that it has this technology on liquid hydrogen. Which means when you convert liquid hydrogen, you can actually become electricity and water. That means no carbon footprint at all. And moving forward, a lot of countries are actually trying to aim for zero carbon emission. So this has been the forecasted growth of liquid hydrogen. As you can see, this exponential growth shows that it's going to transcend many industries and many manufacturing methods. Number 7 on today's list is actually AMD. And just in case you're viewing this with a laptop, check out what chip it is. It could very well be from AMD. Because AMD has a whole range of sophisticated chips, from normal computers all the way to gaming specialized computers. So the key part about AMD is, if you realize what is going on in its revenue, you get a shock, because computers seem to be such a boring business. But if you look at the chip making business, you realize that revenue has been growing very aggressively, correct, over the last few quarters. AMD is really now highly profitable. So unlike many in this list today, AMD at least has positive cash flow and also has a sizable cash just in case it needs to do acquisition to improve its leadership in the market. Because number 8 in today's list is actually a major competitor of AMD, and that is actually NVDA. Now, we ran through 7 names quickly, so let's slow down a bit on NVDA, because NVDA, in my opinion, is a very interesting company that we should pay closer attention to. It has exposure to 4 growth spaces. Firstly, it's in gaming. Secondly, it's in artificial intelligence. Thirdly, it's in augmented reality. And fourth, it's in self-driving cars. Today, I'll be sharing with you more on NVIDIA using 4 key points that with that, you understand what it's doing as well as what is the potential of its business. The first about NVIDIA is actually very diversified. No customer of it is more than 11% of total revenues, which means if self-driving cars reach a point of overcapacity, they could still derive revenues from the 3 other major growth segments. The second key part about NVIDIA is it has next generation processors for data centers. Now, if you followed this channel, you kind of know I'm a big fan of data centers, and NVIDIA already has certain technology and certain value to give to its customers in data centers. Third, it's also involved in the autonomous driving space, and it's a supplier to many of the leading robo-taxis and self-driving cars. Number 4 is that NVIDIA actually has exposure to cybersecurity via its segment called Morpheus. So Morpheus is a cloud-native cybersecurity framework, and maybe that is a key point where it can further grow its revenues down the years. And with that, let me lead into number 9 in today's list, which is Crowdstrike, an expert and leader in cybersecurity. Crowdstrike is actually held by this guy over here, which is George Kurtz. And George Kurtz used to be the Chief Technology Officer of McAfee. McAfee, you do use it for your computers, correct? And right now, he's set up a new company doing B2B cybersecurity. So very smart. He's very well experienced in this industry by his resume itself. CrowdStrike has been ranked by its peers as the number 1 in terms of modern endpoint security. In cybersecurity, there are many sub-domains, and in this particular domain, they are the expert, the leader of things. So let me share with you again 3 key points to understand the potential of Crowdstrike. The first is that it's deriving rapid annual recurring revenue, ARR. And this chart over here really shows how good things are looking at. Annual recurring revenue means recurring income, passive income, maybe not so passive, but recurring income means that there's stability to profits. And not only that, number 2 is that each business they bring in is seeing increasing gross margins. Now, when you look at a company's moat, a very simple telltale sign is whether their margins are strong. And if margins are increasing, it means that they have a significant competitive advantage of their solution. That's why they are able to ask a better margin from their customers. And who are their customers? Point number 3, a lot of Fortune 500 companies are their customers. How many? 214 to be exact of Fortune 500. Of the top 20 banks in US, 13 of them are using Crowdstrike. Now, if the pie of big companies kind of secure already, I guess the next room for growth seems to be the SMEs all around the world. And if you look at this report over here, realize that every 5 seconds there is a ransomware attack. And in comparison to 2016, where it's about 40 seconds, this rate of attack seems to be on an exponential curve up, which means each and every company, big or small, needs to really invest into cybersecurity. And I guess from a layman perspective, the more we work away from office, the more unsecure our logins are, the more we can actually potentially bring risk to the enterprise software itself. And I guess this work from home arrangement is going to last even for the next few years ahead. And with that, let's move on to company number 10 on today's list. And before we get there, just to share with you also, we're actually looking at the cloud computing ETF that can give you exposure to many names in today's list. So that simplifies your investment process. So if you're keen, smash the subscribe and stay tuned for it. So number 10 on today's list is none other than Palantir. Now, I have my thoughts on Palantir, which I've left before in my private channel, but just in case you haven't seen a full breakdown of Palantir, it's pretty fresh. This is actually on the public domain. Check out this video on Palantir because within that video, I've actually shared before why Palantir is such an attractive business and why so many people rate it very highly. So if you haven't seen that video, inviting you there. As I sign off from here, take care and goodbye.